This streetcar leaves much to be desired, but could it be a small step towards something bigger? Welcome to Atlanta, the capital and largest city of the U.S. state of Georgia. I love when the largest city is also the capital. I don't really have a good reason why, it just feels satisfying. We were in Atlanta on an extended layover and had just explored several of the sites near the Centennial Olympic Park. Of course, I wanted to use the opportunity to try out some of Atlanta's transit. In our last video, we rode MARTA, the heavy rail system. Today, it's time for Atlanta's slightly lesser known transit line. Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom, and together with Lindsay, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, home of Coca-Cola, CNN, Peaches, and the Atlanta Streetcar. Now, this is kind of an infamous piece of transit, but I am very excited to ride it. It has been years since I've been in Atlanta. I think I was in high school last time. And when I was there, I took this short clip of the Atlanta Streetcar. Now, it's happened before where in the past I've been able to take footage of a transit system but not been able to ride it yet. So now I am very excited to actually get to try out the Atlanta Streetcar. We just had some fun exploring the Centennial Olympic Park, and now we're headed to the Martin Luther King Jr. Historic District. And what better way to go there than take the streetcar? Well, I guess that's what we're about to find out. We begin our trip today at the Lucky at Cone stop, one stop away from the park. The Atlanta Streetcar is a loop line with all trains running the 2.7 mile or 4.3 kilometer loop in a counterclockwise direction. Tickets cost just $1, and normally you would be able to buy them from the ticket machine at the stop. Well, this machine has a meltdown anytime you put a debit card in it, so we're going to try to convince the operator with some good old-fashioned George Washingtons. Well, we were gonna try to pay, but it looks like these cash receptacles only accept coins. A free ride for us, I guess. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure we were the only people on the vehicle who had actually intended to pay. The crowd on board was lively, but mostly in a positive way.
Welcome aboard the Atlanta Streetcar, bound for King Historic District.
There was one point where the operator refused to move the tram until one guy put his shirt back on, but that was about the extent of rule enforcement that we experienced while on board.
You have to have a shirt on before you board the train. You have to have your shirt on before you board this train.
Let's talk about how this streetcar came to be. Like many cities, Atlanta used to have a ton of trolleys running all over town. Sadly, though they began running in 1871, the last of these streetcars closed down in 1949.
We are approaching the Park Place stop. Please hold on as we stop.
Then, in 2003, a nonprofit known as Atlanta Streetcar Incorporated was founded to design and advocate for the construction of a modern streetcar. In the early 2000s, new streetcars like this were popping up all over the United States. I will be addressing this phenomenon in a more in-depth video that I'm planning to release sometime this summer. Anyways, the project made it so far that it received federal funding in 2010. Construction began and it was opened in December of 2014. The line has 4 vehicles in total, S70 light rail vehicles built by Siemens. They are maintained in a small barn under the highway near Dobbs Plaza. Though initially operated by a separate entity, in 2018, operations were taken over by MARTA, who also runs the other trains and buses in the region. So the streetcar drops you off right here on Auburn Avenue. After the Atlanta race riots of 1906, a lot of the black residents of the city began to live in this neighborhood, including in that house over there where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born and where he spent his childhood. Over there is the Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is where he was a reverend and where the current U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock is a reverend. And This area is like a National Historic Park now. I would highly recommend coming here. It's incredibly educational, insightful, and humbling, and inspirational. The National Historic Park was first established in 1974. It includes the King Center, an institution for nonviolent social change. Dr. King's remains are kept in a tomb on the property. I would highly recommend visiting the King Historic District, and the streetcar is a great way to do that. The stop is so close. Let's get on a streetcar back to downtown. It should be here soon. Well, once it clears the light, that is.
This vehicle starts and stops unexpectedly.
There have been many complaints about the Atlanta streetcar. In fact, it's kind of a joke among transit enthusiasts. It does not really go anywhere outside of downtown, it has a slightly questionable safety record, and my main complaint, it's so slow. If there is any signal priority at all, we certainly did not experience it. The train stopped at every light, and for a long time too. It really is barely faster than walking, let alone driving or taking the bus. And that's so frustrating because it defeats the purpose of transit. And that gives anti-transit politicians ammunition to shut other projects down.
We are approaching the Dobbs Plaza stop. Please hold on as we stop.
Okay, that might just be the saddest thing I've ever featured on a Trains Are Awesome video. Okay, so I have a question for you. Marta or streetcar?
I like the seats on Marta better, but the streetcar is definitely more frequent, which is kind of embarrassing.
All hope is not lost for the streetcar. One expansion is on its way in the next few years, and we may eventually see a large light rail network that will serve as a crosstown connector. To explain this, I have to introduce you to the Atlanta Beltline. The idea for the Beltline dates back to 1999, when a master's student at Georgia Tech named Ryan Gravel wrote about it in his master's thesis. He had noticed that downtown Atlanta was flanked by old railroad tracks that had been built to bypass the city. But since many of these lines were pretty much abandoned, he proposed repurposing the lines as transit. Well, the city of Atlanta took that idea and decided to build it. But of course, being Atlanta, they so far have not built any transit. Instead, part of the Beltline today is trails. Which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy walking a trail from time to time. They have their place. But come on, we're talking about a city with some of the worst traffic in the world. This should be transit, plain and simple. The East Streetcar extension, which is fully funded and will hopefully open in 2028, will use a small part of the Beltline right-of-way. But if the entire Beltline was to be built out, someday there would be a loop of light rail around the city. In that scenario, the current streetcar will act as a downtown segment of the bigger light rail network. Unfortunately, the fate of the Beltline is still uncertain. Just listen to what Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens had to say earlier this month.
Yeah, so we are still looking at how to make sure that we can fully vet this process of getting transportation around the Beltline as well. So we have to think, is it going to be rail? Is it going to be autonomous vehicles like pods? Is it going to be bus rapid transit?
Rail. Pick rail. Please, I'm begging you. Do you want to make transit in the city better? Do you want to make the streetcar better? Pick rail.
People have this notion that we're talking about putting heavy rail around the Beltline. That's not the case. You're talking about a nice, slow-moving people mover like you might see at an amusement park, or how you see in France and Italy and other places.
Oh boy. Did he really just say nice and slow? Anyways, to be continued.
A sundown, Gold Line train is approaching the station. Please stand back from the platform bench. Allow passengers to exit the vehicle before boarding.
So as of right now, the short little streetcar loop is kind of silly. It's not entirely unuseful. It was actually pretty well occupied, and we found it useful to get to where we wanted to go. It could become part of a much larger regional light rail system. In order to achieve that, they're gonna have to do something about the slow speeds downtown. I don't think I've ever been on anything that goes that slow. Anyways, there's quite a few of these short little streetcar systems in different cities all across the US. We've done a few on the channel already. I'm sure we'll do more in the future. So stick around, subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you next time.